The structure was like a bunch of buildings spliced together. It poked over the tall pine trees that poked over my dashboard. Mary sat in the passenger seat, poking at her phone, occasionally messing with the white blouse she had over her green and white dress. We drove over a long hill, and our destination seemed to grow during the descent. It had a wraparound deck with several small sheds close by. One side was bulbous, like the top of an observatory, while the other was slim and long, like a school. We parked and walked up the wooden steps. Mary's hair shone like bright orange fire in the setting sunlight. I loved her hair, long past her shoulders and wavy, and wanted to say something, but didn't. The staff of the structure gave us passing glances and were dressed in black and gray formal clothing, like they were going to a funeral. Why we were there, Mary couldn't tell me. She only spoke in laughter, but solemn laughter, like this was the last day we would spend together as a couple. Entering the long structure, we traipsed around its halls, going into offices and behind desks like we were kids again. Bursting through the last door, we entered the bulbous room and found the stained glass windows of a church. Long pews and a few podiums took up the floors, and a large domed ceiling held hanging lamps. No one was there. It was empty except for the two of us. Not even the remaining staff would enter, even for a shortcut outside, which there was a door to. The sun continued to set behind the stained glass, and our hushed voices echoed through the sanctuary. We held each other close, like this was the last time we would spend together as a couple. The wind picked up, howling through the pines and pushing leaves and dirt up into the air. Thunder began to drum in the east, and lightning began to flash overhead. The staff had left, and we decided to pick up our things and make our way out of the long structure's door. A huge man, a giant, met us on the deck, his thick fur cloak billowing in the violent wind. Rain began to fall, and his heavy voice called out to us. Something was coming. A monster. The giant called it the Light Mangler, and he was the only one who could catch it. He said if its light touched us, we would perish a death for each branch of lightning in the storm. It was then that the storm picked up. The wind tried to sweep us away, the rain pelted our heads and backs. I held onto Mary, and she onto me. The giant shielded his eyes from the rain, watching each flash of lightning for the monster. And then, we heard it scream. A bright shape leaped from the storm. An unknowable and blinding creature pounced onto the giant. He urged us to hide inside, hide for our lives, as the Light Mangler dug into him. I never saw what it fully looked like. Mary and I ran inside the long structure. We dared not hide in the church. A small broom closet became our shelter, clutching each other in the dark and safe shadows. A window broke in our hall, and rain began to spill inside. We heard heavy steps make their way into the long structure, a light burning the tile and the carpet on the floor, and the paper on the walls. The light passed under the door like the feelers of an octopus, stretching and groping for something. It seemed to take the shadows themselves into its fractal appendages and gnash and gnaw at them like an animal who had been starved for millennia. Each grasping beam of light seemed to sniff and pant like a foul hound hunting for a pair of scared rabbits. Its feelers began to retract from under the unharmed metal door. It was then I looked at Mary, and she at me. I knew we couldn't hide forever while this thing stalked the long structure, burning brighter than the sun. I could hear it right outside, and, squeezing Mary, rushed for the handle. Opening and swinging it onto the beast, the metal door came off its hinges and crushed the Light Mangler under its weight. I heard an electric hiss fall off with the dying light of the Light Mangler. I sank on top of the door, on top of the floor, and after a moment of hearing only the dying rain, lifted and looked under to find nothing but ash. Mary and I climbed back into my car. We drove into the sunrise. I told her I loved her hair, full of light and bright orange. She turned to the window and teased me, saying that I only talked about her hair in the car.